Bernie Sanders picks up his first national union endorsement. And this was brought to us by RF Hartwell over on the Reddit subsection. This also comes from the Reddit subsection. Again, reddit.com/r/GetYourNewsOnWithRon. RF Hartwell, thank you for this. Bernie Sanders picks up his first national union endorsement. The United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers Union, the UE, shares his unabashed anti-corporate populism. Senator Bernie Sanders scored the first national labor union endorsement of his presidential candidacy on Monday. That was earlier this week, earning the support of the Pittsburgh-based, my hometown. Shout out to Pittsburgh, PA, 412, baby. The support of the Pittsburgh-based Union Electrical Radio Machine Workers of America, the UE for short. They go by the UE for short, right, Lucy? She's been chilling here this whole time. My co-host, Kat. Lucy, don't be too quiet. Pipe in when you need to, when you got something to say. You remember Pittsburgh. You spent some time there. Because she has. She's been through there with me a bunch. So anyway, the 35,000-member union, among the country's smallest, backs Sanders' 2016 bid and shares his unabashed anti-corporate populism. So they're backing him again. So here's what the UE General President, Peter Knowlton, had to say. Bernie understands the need for workers to have a democratic, independent union movement that is unafraid to challenge corporate America's stranglehold on our economy. Right on. So there we go. Bernie Sanders getting a union endorsement, as he should. In 2016, there were certain scenarios where certain unions, they didn't consult their members, and they had ties to the Clinton administration, and they just endorsed Hillary. Didn't consult their members, and they had ties to the Clinton administration. Like I believe one of the teachers' unions did that, and they just endorsed Hillary. Because, hey, unions can certainly have corruption too. I am 110% pro-union. The show is a very pro-union show, but unions can have corruption too. That can certainly happen, and it does. And that's, for instance, where it did happen. Didn't consult their members, just endorsed Hillary anyway. And it turns out they had ties to the Clintons. That happened in some unions. So good for the UE in Pittsburgh, which, by the way, and again, that is radio, machine, and electrical workers. You know, here's a fun fact that I think not a lot of people know about. First radio broadcast ever in the United States, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Not just Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but about, how far would it be? Maybe a quarter of a mile away from where I grew up. It's really cool. There's this, Western Pennsylvania is a very hilly place. I lived in a very hilly neighborhood, as most people did, because, again, it's a very, very hilly place. And right near where I grew up, it's one of the highest kind of altitude points, or would it be latitude? Altitude, I think is the right word. One of the highest altitude points in the area. And they made the first radio broadcast there. KDKA, which is still a media outlet in Pittsburgh. It's a fairly right-wing outlet, but whatever. We don't need to go into those details. But first radio broadcast ever happened in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right down the street from me. There was a mayor of the community I grew up in, a community called Forest Hills. One of the former mayors, a couple of them actually, who I full disclaimer, I do know both of them. One of them is no longer with us, unfortunately, but they really wanted to invest some money into kind of making this a site to be seen. Like there's a little lodge that you can rent out for private parties or events or whatever. And there's a little kind of plaque that talks about how, hey, the first radio broadcast ever happened here. Lucy's excited. She likes radio. She's like, you're talking about the first radio broadcast that happened down the street from my grandma and grandpa's house. That's what she's saying. She perked up for radio. There you go. She likes a lot of the vintage jazz shows. It helps her be a cool cat, huh? But anyway, so they wanted to make like a museum, essentially. They wanted to make, or at least some kind of like exhibit, make it free to the community, and have kind of a big memorial about radio. And there's this organization, because one of the guys who started a lot of this stuff, he had this garage where he kept all the equipment. That garage is now, I believe, a Wendy's. But before the garage was torn down, a bunch of people that wanted to preserve this, they got everything from the garage, and they've maintained it. And Lucy just got tired there. She was over it. She's like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to mess with the curtain too. That's what she did. Anyway. All right. So There you go. Bernie Sanders' first union endorsement, the UE in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my hometown, which also had the first radio broadcast ever in the history of the United States. Interesting little factoid there. All right. Let's see what else is happening. Oh, and thank you, R.F. Hartwell, for that article.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make